Welcome to Behind the Tools. Here's Tradify CEO and your host, Michael Steckler.
Hi everyone. Just before we get into this week's episode, I'd like to quickly let you know about a fun competition we're running over on Instagram, the Tradify Van Games. We want you to show us what makes your van, truck, or work vehicle special. Whether your wheels are worth showing off or ready to be replaced, share a picture with us on Instagram and be in it to win cash prizes and tool bundles. Now, there are prizes for the best overall setup, the most unique, and the rig that is in need of the most TLC. To find out more about the prizes and how to enter, please do head over to our Instagram page at Tradify HQ. That's our Instagram page at Tradify HQ. Entries close on the 14th of November, and best of luck. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Behind the Tools. Delighted this week to have a guest, Mike Humphries from Greenhawk Construction. Mike, welcome to the show.
How you doing? You right?
Yeah, very good, very good. And Mike is based in, for those that don't know, in the UK, in a place called Nuneaton in Warwickshire, which is not too far from Coventry. I think Coventry is probably the nearest city. Is that fair?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's probably 10 minutes away. Something like. We do a lot of work in Cov, to be fair.
Yeah, you guys
so
that sort of region. Yeah, and it's famous. Nuneaton, I think it's one of the largest towns in kind of Warwickshire, if not the largest, and famous for George Eliot, the novelist. For those that inclined for a bit of literature. I didn't realise Mary Whitehouse. Now that's probably a bit of a generational thing. There's probably a lot of people, listeners, viewers that don't remember Mary Whitehouse. Mary Whitehouse, for people in the UK, would probably hear, was a person that used to write letters about TV programs she thought were offensive, and she wrote lots of letters about lots of TV programs. And I think about TV nowadays, she'd be having a heart attack. She was from Nuneaton, as was Ken Loach, another famous film director. So look, welcome to the show. Great to have you on board. Do you maybe want to start by sort of telling us a bit about the business and where your focus is?
Yeah, I mean, I am one of three directors. It's quite unique because we're all three complete equal partners, and we basically do everything from the ground up. So we, new builds, extensions, property renovations, dedicated electrical work, kitchens, bathrooms, all that sort of stuff. But it's all done in house. We don't really outsource work. It's only for the very, very specialist stuff that we do, and I just love it. I absolutely love it. It's quite. I feel quite fortunate because I literally wake up every morning, look forward to going to work. Not many people can say that. There's jobs, don't get me wrong, where you don't really enjoy, but most of the time, yeah. So that's what we do, really. I just absolutely love my job. I love the industry. I love trying new stuff. I like doing the next job better than the last one. It's all that sort of mentality that we've all got, and promoting the next generation coming through as well. That's a big deal because as you know, our YouTube channel, and we started that, and we that's a new channel, to be fair, but it's something that I'm very passionate about now. And there's a big reason that I started YouTube as well, and all the social media stuff. But yeah, that's basically what we. And
why did you? Just to jump on that, I had a couple of questions. Where does the name come from, Greenhawk?
Do you know what? A guy actually, we're working at a job in Coventry at the minute, and there's a plumber who's working for the guy next door, and he's looking at the vans, and he went, Greenhawk, and he says, where have I seen that around? I says, yeah, quite a few places, and everyone keeps saying that. He says, it's just a name that just sticks in your head. And do you know what? When we created Greenhawk, it's such a hard thing to get three grown blokes to decide on a name. None of our names are Green. None of our names are Hawk. And it was just something that we wanted, something quite natural, and something quite memorable. And we were chucking names out. I think we had about 30 or 40 names. Some of them were just not appropriate. And you're just getting them out of your head. And Greenhawk stuck. And it was just like, yeah, that really works. And the amount of people that say, Greenhawk, and it just stays with them.
Yeah.
And it's great. But yeah, there's nothing else really that's behind it other than it's just three guys who've just come up with the name. I wish it was something a bit more meaningful.
Who came up with the name?
It was a mixture. I think, if I remember rightly, I think Steve came up with the green part of it. And then I think we were banding around different, we wanted something natural. So we were thinking of, some sort of, animal of some sort. And that was basically, so I think it was a collective on the hawk part. So yeah, I think the green is more for trying to be sustainable and try and do a bit for the environment and all that sort of stuff. Because everything now is, let's face it, everything's energy efficient, isn't it? All those sorts of things. So it just sort of works.
That was going to be my next question, actually, because I saw that on your website and some of what you do, and the name itself is, you seem to sort of emphasize the sustainability stuff. Yeah, what's your point of view? Is there an ethos around it with the company, or are you seeing, sort of two questions, are you seeing more demand from customers for that type of stuff in their work?
Yeah, do you know what it is? It's everything now has to be so much, the insulation values on houses have to be incredible. So if we're doing, an extension, for example, like the one we're on in Coventry, the whole back of it is all glass, all the way up to the gable. And it's beautiful. It's going to be a fantastic house. But because of the high glass content, your U values have to be so much higher. So it's just something that you have to bear in mind all the time. And there's not a lot of people who really factor that in. And it's like now I've just recently done my electric vehicle charging course, because I've been installing provisions for them in our extensions for the last 2 years. Just even if they're going, look, I'm not ready for it. Yeah, but it's not going to be this car, but your next car is probably going to be an electric vehicle. So it's just having it all set up, ready to go, because in 2 years' time, when they buy it, they're going to ring us. They're going to say, Mike, can you come back? And I've got my electric vehicle. I'm so glad you've taught me into getting it. And we're starting to look a bit more at things like, obviously, like the solar panels. And I've just recently looking into power banks and things like that. It's let's face it, it's the way forward, isn't it? Like our waste removal, for example, we separate some of the stuff. So like our aggregates and dig out all goes off separately, because it's just more cost efficient, and it's just more environmentally friendly to going, right, we're going to get the grab wire in, that's going straight back to landfill, and it's there sorted, and it's just another byproduct. And then all our stuff that can't do that obviously has to go into skips like everybody else.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, there's a lot bigger companies and better companies have a lot, do a lot more for it. But if everybody does their little bit, it's a step in the right direction, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's completely. I also think there will be that the EV example is a really good one, right? There is a load of people that won't have EV vehicles, but even if you think about 10 years, and if you do stay in your house for the next 10 years and you haven't paid for an expensive extension, and you've included that, you're going to use it at some point. It's sort of inevitable.
Because three customers in a week actually rang me up and wanted me to quote for putting electric vehicle charging points in their house. And I said, oh, okay, what car have you just bought, or have you already got? And they, oh no, we haven't even bought one, but we're looking to sell the house. They're using it as a selling tool.
That was a selling point, right?
And I'm like, okay, I get it, but it must be coming more of from the estate agent's point of view, going, look, it's a really good selling point. Home offices as well was another big one now, where because people are working from home, and they're permanently going to be working from home. So home offices are a big part, and they will be. We've just completed a garden room project, which is it's a beautiful building, and we're just pricing up another 2 as we speak now. And they're just getting more and more popular.
Yeah, it makes total sense to me. And in the UK at the moment, there's the petrol crisis. Has that had an impact on you as a business? Where you at? Talking about cars.
Yeah, anybody who knows me, I love cars. I love cars. I love vans. I mean, I've just ordered a new one, and that'll be my 30th vehicle.
You might have told me this. It's worth just underscoring that a sec, because you don't look like that older fella to have owned 30 vehicles. I was trying to do the maths on it.
It's quite a few. I'm 37. So
just for those who don't know, the legal age of driving in the UK, as far as I remember, it's a while ago now, is 17. So that's right, and you're not usually buying your first car yourself when you're 17, but that's sort of 30 vehicles over 20 years.
It's pretty good going. Yeah, my first vehicle was a 1974 Land Rover Series 3, which to anybody else was a proper farmer's wagon.
Yeah.
But I'm a country lad, and it was something that basically the story behind that is my best mate at the time was racing motocross bikes, and he used to import his race bike from the States, and then his previous year was his practice bike. And I lent him 500 quid, and he had this Land Rover up the farm because he was a farm hand at the time.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll have your Land Rover, instead, don't worry paying it back. And we did it up together, and and that was it. It was great. And I wish it's the one vehicle I wish I'd kept. I wish if I could buy it back now, because it was rubbish. It was rubbish, but it was something that I loved it. And so I get bored very quickly. I've got a really short attention span. So with the vehicles, like the one I've got now, I'm supposed to keep that for 4 years. And like I say, my new ones come in the first week of November, and I've had that less than 2 years. And that's quite a long time for me, but it's got to go. So yeah, I do love my vehicles. Yeah.
Can you fill them up at the moment? How's that affected you?
Basically it's gone, people have just gone a little bit mental. I don't know how else to describe it, that and a lot of selfish people, and I'm just thinking, funnily enough, there's a petrol station probably it's just pretty much just as you come out of my estate where I live, and you can hear them. I was working here on Saturday with my business partner Sean, and you could hear them beeping and all the rest of it. I said, look, I'll just nip down to our local merchants. I'll take your van. He says, oh yeah, do us a favour, put some diesel in it. I've literally got 14 miles left. I goes, yeah, no worries. I couldn't even get out of my estate because people had just blocked the road all the way up. I had to go around the long way to get out, drive on the wrong side of the road to get to the merchant. I couldn't get any fuel. I then I said to Sean, there's no way you're going to get fuel in that. You're just going to break down. It's a brand new van. And I had to jump in mine, take a big jerry can.
Oh, it's a can, yeah.
Drive literally 30 minutes drive just to get some fuel. And this was a desperation because he had no fuel. I had fuel.
He's got nothing left in the van.
He's got nothing left. It was crazy. And some of the things that I've seen of people, and you just think it's so different from the first wave of lockdown when everyone was kind and courteous.
Yeah, well, people do when there's a perceived short. There is a shortage. It's not perceived, but it's people do.
I think it's the drivers, isn't it? I think it's the drivers that is a shortage, not actually the fuel itself.
Not the fuel itself.
Delivery system, the logistics, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it will be resolved. Going back to your earlier point about why you set the YouTube channel up, we've talked about a lot on this show. It's trying to sort of attract more young people into trades. So yeah, what was the intention behind the YouTube channel? Was that part of it?
Yeah. Yes and no. I will be brutally honest. I've suffered with mental health a little bit. I say a little bit, quite a lot, if I'm honest, being brutally honest out there. When lockdown happened, I struggled massively. It's quite a tough, tricky subject, isn't it? But it's something, even with my small platform, to be very, very open about it, because it's such a massive problem that I think I read today that I think farmers have the highest suicide rate, and then second to construction workers. That is shocking. So even if I can do something little and change somebody else's life, but I did it because I went from sadly I lost my father-in-law would have been 12 years ago to cancer. Never really dealt with it, and it's just snowballed. And then when lockdown happened, I went from 10-hour days, 12-hour days or whatever, got money coming in, we're okay, all the rest of it, to no, you're forced to stay at home. It was just too much for me. And and I went into a very, very dark place, and I thought, I've got to do something. And I started watching, because I'm keen country. I'm a real country lad, and I was watching a lot of YouTube, and things like that, and other Sparkies as well on YouTube. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. And the first recording that I ever made, I've never uploaded it, and it was at 12 o'clock at night. I went into my garage on my drive just to talk into my phone about my feelings, how I was feeling at the time, and it helped. It helped, even though it wasn't doing anything like that. And I showed it to my wife, and I sent it to my parents, and they were obviously incredibly shocked. But equally, it sort of changed something in me, to think, well, I now use it as a tool to not let my mind be too inactive, if that makes any sense.
It makes total sense.
So
Yeah.
It's like I said earlier on, that when my baby goes to sleep, my baby boy goes to sleep, I'm back in the office and I'm doing work stuff, and I'm editing what I've filmed in the day, you know, and all that sort of stuff. So it keeps it very, very active. But in the very, very early days, when you're getting a negative comment, because you do, let's face it, it's social media.
It's the nature of the beast.
Some people are just, they just need a hug. I'm just going to say it like that. They need a hug themselves. So they go out of their way to be, you know, not very kind, because they think that's going to make their life better. And it doesn't. It ultimately makes them more poisoned. And I don't know why they do it, but, you know, they've got their own demons. And yeah, that used to really bother me, really, really bother me. And I was talking to another guy who's massive on YouTube. We were chatting about this, and I said, for every 100 great comment that you get, it's the bad one that you remember. And it's so wrong. But I've learned now to accept it a little bit. They still always creep in. But yeah, that's why I do it. And I promote so many different things. You know, I try and get my apprentice on it as much as possible. I show all the mistakes, all the realities, because, you know, nobody's perfect. And I think that's something I always set out with the YouTube channel, is that it's got to be as natural as possible. Because if you wanted it as slick and high polished and all the rest of it, you can watch normal telly. That's not what YouTube's all about. I don't think that's what it's about. And, you know, I make fun of myself, you know, and also I make fun of the lads, and they make fun of me because they're now recording as well, and they make fun of me. And, you know, it's good. It's good, and I enjoy it. And that's overall. And I think a lot of people get this impression that, you know, you do YouTube and stuff, you must be making loads of money and all the rest of it. And it's not true at all. It's not true. If you know, with YouTube, it's if you're thinking of starting a YouTube channel to make yourself millions and all the rest of it, don't bother. Don't do it, because because you enjoy it, and that's it. That's all you need to worry about.
And then the rest will follow. Yeah. Well, it has to be authentic otherwise. And most people, when they do get that sudden explosion on YouTube, they can't usually articulate why that happened. And it's just because, for whatever reason, there was one video that happened to catch the zeitgeist or whatever it was at that moment in time. Whereas if you try and manufacture that, it's just not going to,
it just doesn't work.
It's not going to resonate. People can kind of see through it and sort of realize, oh, that was manufactured. Maybe that wasn't real. You know, even some of the, I think some of the kind of jokey stuff that may have been popular 4 or 5 years ago, now even people are now getting over some of that stuff, because, you know, even if it's real, some people think, oh, it's probably not real. They've manufactured that. Authenticity is really important. And, you know, on the mental health side, I think it's really brave that you did that. You're not the only person I've heard that from. And there's definitely a shift. Actually, interestingly, if you look at New Zealand, which has a very big farming economy, actually construction workers, you know, not in a good way, actually surpass farmers, I think, is one of the stats I heard recently in terms of suicide rates, which is really, you know, not great. And I think it's one of those industries that, you know, part of the reason is people just don't talk to each other or don't air those problems. They try and keep it in themselves, and that pressure. And then I think the lockdown was a sort of perfect recipe in the way you've described it to aggravate that problem that already existed.
Yeah, and I think also is that people, especially in construction industry, it used to be quite like a bit of a macho thing, isn't it? You know, blokes don't talk. I mean, I've been asked to go on another podcast, and I said to him, look, I'm quite happy to talk. You know, I openly want to talk about mental health and all the rest of it, because it's important. Because one person might watch this and go, that's I can't believe he said that. You know, and it changed his mindset. And he actually said, oh, I'm not talking. That's one thing I don't want to talk about, because it's I'm old fashioned. And I just think, well, you can't be old fashioned about this. This is not the time to be old fashioned. And if you've got any platform whatsoever, you should make it well aware that you know, you can reach out to people. And this leads on to something else, that there was another YouTuber that I watched one of his videos, and I noticed something in just the way he was. And I rang him. I found his number out and I rang him. I thought, I'm not sending a stupid message. I'm not messaging through Instagram, all the rest of it, because these things are important. And I rang and I was on the phone to this person. I won't mention who it is, but I was on the phone to this person for 2.5 hours, and it was just chatting about different things. And they said, I didn't realize that you can see these things. And it does take its toll on me, but it also made me think that if something had happened, I've tried. And I think if anybody else gets in that mindset I tried to describe it, how long does it take to make a cup of tea? 2 minutes. In that time it takes you, why don't you pick up the phone and ring someone? And that's it. I know it sounds a bit like preaching and stuff, but it's really important.
It literally is saving lives. Yeah, no, it is. And I spoke to Slade McFarlane, who works with an organisation called Mates in Construction, which is quite big in Australia and down this end of the world. And he talked about, how do you spot these things? And one of them was, one of the team is not partaking in the team lunch, or has just gone very quiet and goes and sits on their own. Those types of things, they're usually warning signs. And all it takes is someone to go over and spark a conversation and be like, hey, look, what's up? We'll have a chat about it. And it makes a really big difference. And that's one of the things, I think, to your earlier example of the person you were going to be on the podcast with, that sort of generational, sometimes generational, not always generational, but that attitude of like, keep it in here and keep quiet and just deal with it.
It's that classic man up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not really not very helpful, and that's why you have these kind of high suicide rates in. I used to think about taxi drivers and other industries that are very similar, which are often people that are either sole traders on their own, or they're running a small business where they're often the person that has to make the decisions and are employing people, and there's a build up of pressure. And then if you have these other things, these other external factors like lockdowns, that can have a really big impact. Yeah. And then you as a company, you've got apprentices on board. How big is the team now?
Yeah, we've got 3 apprentices now. One is Lewis is just about to, funnily enough, I've got him to bring the college today because he's going to be finished next week. As of next week, I think he's qualified, passed his apprenticeship. So then what we will then say is we'll class Lewis as a semi-skilled, should we say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've got 2 more. And now with Lewis passing, we've actually made the conversation today about potentially taking on another new apprentice or starting the process of that. Do you know what? I don't understand how, as a company, you can't have apprentices. We've got 1 electrical apprentice, and then there was 2 basically bricklaying apprentices. But everybody who works for us has to do everything. You'll have a specialist area, which is obviously like your electrics, carpentry or whatever. And then what we've said to the lads is we'll try and get you to specialize in 1 more, so have you 2 key areas. So Lewis is gone, obviously he's doing bricklaying, but his secondary is almost he's gone for like the carpentry side of things. Kian is another bricklaying apprentice, but he wanted to get more involved in the plastering. And Jack, who's my newest apprentice, who's on the electrical side, because naturally I do the plumbing as well on the company, he's probably going to end up falling into that role, but he said he's quite keen to do plastering as well, and it's just trying to push them, but it's hard. It is hard for that transition from when they're fresh out of school, isn't it, into the real world. But we've genuinely got a really, really good bunch of lads, and I think we're spoiled with them. Hopefully they don't watch this and they don't find out this, but yeah, it's generally we feel quite spoiled with them. But again, you've got to treat them well. You've got to treat them well, and if you work with us, we try and keep it as a family. Like Lewis is just qualifying, so we've said to him, right, here's your options. His car is knackered. Again, here's me with a car thing, and I said, look, you can have a pay rise or we'll buy you a brand new van. And he said, I'll take the brand new van, thank you. And so we ordered that 8 months ago, something like that, ready for him to qualify. So he gets his a week after mine. So I'm really excited about that as well.
Oh, that's great.
And
that makes a huge difference, I think, in terms of I've spoken to other trades companies that have talked in the same way, which is just providing a level of respect and how you treat apprentices versus, again, historically, I think some of the some of the cliches, but how apprentices were probably treated coming up through the ranks. I think that also sounds like it's changing quite a bit.
Yeah, I hope so, because I think I do hear of horror stories and stuff and apprentices, and but then equally if we put a job application out, as you can imagine, we get a lot of applicants, and some of them we generally try and do a lot of FaceTime interviews and things like that, and some of them it shocks me how naff they are, and punctuation is like, we've done videos on it. It's just so important. And we did one for Newcastle College. They actually asked me to do a video, and it was like a Q&A session for their apprentices. And it's just like grammar. I mean, I'm dyslexic, but if I'm writing something, get someone to check it. You know, it's not difficult. And if you can't do that right, we just literally just throw them in the bin. It's not worth it.
Right. Is that your first? So when you go through that process, what is your sort of filter process to decide when you get to sort of a shortlist?
Yeah. So what we do is we'll put the job out. So we've got a really, really good relationship with our local college, and so we'll speak to them. So look, we're looking for. I mean, as it stands now, I think the next apprentice will be a carpentry apprentice. So we'll go and speak to them. So look, this is what we're after. We have set sort of things that we'd ideally want. No knowledge is probably better than anything, to be honest, because we can mold them how we want. And then, so once they send us their CVs, we quite like them to be, we just want them to be as real and honest as they possibly can be, you know, and what hobbies, you know, we want to know, you know, if you're into football, rugby, fishing, shooting, whatever, it doesn't matter. It just you know, put it down. And then we look at the, you know, punctuation, spelling, how much effort they've gone into doing that. And if they've got any reference from other people, great. You know, so once we've gone past that stage, it's right. Okay, we'll whittle that down to, I don't know, 10, and then we might say, right, okay, which one do you on paper looks right here, and then we'll just start doing interviews and try and get them down to 3 before we do a face-to-face. And personality from experience goes a long way, because if you think about it, you're in the van with that person for 8 hours a day,
for a long
5
time,
days a week. And if you don't get on, it's just not going to work. You know, that's the key. And it's just, that is really important. And knowing how much effort they want to put in, because they're always on a probation period as well. So first month you'll get best behavior, second month you'll get not too bad, and then your third month is pretty much what you'll end up with. So after that third month, if they're still showing a little bit of signs, they're put on probation again another 3 months. But really, you can pretty much tell after that 3 months whether they're going to make it or not.
So your probation periods for the apprentices are always 3 months.
We do 3 months at a time, and then even now we do a sort of a 6 monthly review on all the people who work with us, because also we want to get feedback from them to know whether there's something that we're not doing for them or they're not happy about, because at the end of the day they've got to be happy, and also stuff that we think that they need improvement on, and we want them to step up their game on this and this. And if there's any complaints between each other, you know, because it's important, you know, you don't want that rotten apple, do you, in the troop. So you know, it works really well. It works really, really well. Well, we think it does anyway.
So how many people have you had to let go, if any, in that sort of 3 month probationary period?
One fairly recently, before Christmas. There was multiple reasons behind it, but one of them was actually on a health and safety medical ground. We couldn't really continue it, but it was awkward. But we you know, we said, look, you know, we'll try and help you move on to, you know, getting you another job and all the rest of it. And I think the construction industry for that particular person wasn't really the right fit, should I say.
Right.
But it was awkward. Do you know what? It's the most awkward thing, because there's no, some people go, oh yeah, I can fire people, this and the other. And You can't. If you're a good boss, you can't. It's always personal. I keep trying to say you're running a business, not a charity, and that's something that is quite tricky.
Yeah, I usually find with these things, it's never a nice thing to do, but it often works out better for both parties, right? I think you're often, identifying something for that person that's probably inevitable at some point in time, and it allows them to think about what it is they really should be doing or where they should work. So, yeah, and it's
definitely
interesting that you've built those relationships with the college as well. I think I've not heard that. Yeah, I know people do it, but that seems like a really smart way to get the pipeline of great candidates coming through.
Yeah, it's really, really important, and it's supporting your local college. And don't get me wrong, I mean, it also depends on the actual lecturer as well that's going through it. I mean, there's a new lecturer that's come in for Jack, and we've got a really, really good relationship now. And he's messaging me, every day, and every time he goes, if there's an issue or there's not an issue, and it's brilliant. I mean, because we've got such a good relationship with our local college because of all the lockdown stuff, I managed to get Jack on the previous year's apprenticeship. So he's actually had a leg up on it because they know what level he's going to have of training. It's like, yeah, okay, we can make this work. But it does mean that Jack's had to work really hard to stay on top and catch up with the rest. Yeah, so it is really important. And we do have, obviously, when we had to let the other person go, I rang the college first and said, look, this is the situation. This is what's happening. Where do we stand? Are we okay with this? And, and I rang it through, and it went up to the directors of the college, and they completely got the backing of us, and you do what you need to do. That's great. And I think that's the missing link between a lot of places, that they don't interact with the college. I mean, the college want to come out and this is just before lockdown all happened. They wanted to send some of their film crew to put us on their website and all the rest of it to endorse for apprenticeships, and we're like, yeah, it's great, but make sure we do it while we're all here, because it's important.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. You're doing that. And sort of the last question really around your business, it sounds like things are going great, which is really good to hear, and you're hiring more people. Any advice, having set the business up and done what you've done, any advice for anyone that's thinking about going out on their own, anything you would have done differently?
Yeah, I would always say to people, just be completely honest and transparent. I think if you are trying to, trick people or get one over on somebody, don't badmouth other people as well, because wherever you're living, it will always have that small community. So for me, as on the electrical side of the company, should I say, that if I went round bad mouthing people with shoddy work, don't get me wrong, I'll highlight bad work, but I will never name and shame anybody, because it gets round, and you don't need that. You don't know what that other guy's been doing. He might have had the worst day, loads of stuff going on in his life. Stuff just might have happened. And I would say just be punctual, be polite to people. I think we get a massive amount of work because, with like obviously our software, obviously we're using you guys. And this is genuinely, we get a lot of work just because of being on time, all the quoting's right, it's all itemized, and we're not the cheapest around. I don't make any bones about that, we're not. But people love it when they go, oh, I know exactly what's coming. Oh, you've turned up. Yeah, because it's on my schedule here. I'm here. Have I got the wrong day? Is it my fault? And they love it. And it's genuinely probably the best bit of advice that I could give to people is be punctual, turn up on time, treat people with respect, and don't, even if you're working for someone who's got millions of pounds and people who have got literally just enough to pay you, treat them the same. And I think you'll be fine. You'll be fine if you do that.
Yeah, it's great. It's great advice. Cool. Mike, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate your openness. We always have a few sort of questions we finish on, which I'm going to ask you. Quite interesting, the first one, actually. If you were going to pick another trade, you sort of do a bit, you're not just doing one thing really, in essence. So it's slightly different. But if you were to pick another trade, what would it be?
I'm going to be greedy and go with two. If I was doing another trade as such, I would probably go into farming, and probably, if not farming, I'd probably be a gamekeeper. is what I would probably go into.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting.
Yeah. They're my two things that I would probably go into. I'd love nothing more to buy a farm, but whether it ever happens or not, I doubt. But you've always
And is
got
that
to have
because
dreams,
your upbringing and you love the outdoors?
yeah, it's my happy place being outside.
Yeah.
Houses and stuff, although I'm in construction, I love doing that, but they don't mean anything to me. The living here is not important, it's the people that are in it, and just being outdoors is the way for me.
Yeah, cool.
I'm just happier. But yeah.
First gamekeeper, that's interesting, great. And then when you're having lunch on site, what would be your go-to, I guess, your special lunch versus a thing you do every day? If you had a Friday lunch or whatever it is.
Yeah, we do a full fat Friday, as we call it. So funny enough, that is actually tomorrow. We generally go out for a meal as a company. So it doesn't really matter where we are. We try and all like meet up and have lunch. But a standard lunch for me is I've actually been smashing out a lot of just tuna and pasta at the minute. But yeah, I know it's pretty boring, but I just.
Oh no, I've got back on the tin tuna. I've got back on tin tuna recently. It's very good for you.
Yeah, a whole tin of tuna and loads of pasta, and then if it fills you up, and enjoy it.
Yeah, nice. Tool brands. We always ask. I'm intrigued about this. Do you ever go to tool or tool brand?
Yes and no. I'm a massive tool tart. Anyone knows me, 100% massive tool tart. I used to be an avid DeWalt fan.
Yeah.
But, dare I say, they just don't last. And I'm sorry, DeWalt, if you are listening, it just doesn't last. So I have started to branch over to Milwaukee, unfortunately. But
no,
it's
you're
been
not
brilliant.
not the last Milwaukee. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. And then things are opening up in the UK, or have opened up, which is great. I sort of see, football and everything's happening. People are going to games. What would be your sort of go-to music or sporting event you want to get to next?
Do you know what? I've never really been to any big sporting events, things like that. I've never really been into it, or the music side of things. What I actually enjoy, which sounds, this is the most boring, as other people go, God, you sad boy. But I've actually just started coaching my son's rugby team and doing things and following my kids because they like playing rugby. And my daughter, she does trampolining, and she said, "Oh, there's another competition going soon."
Well, trampoline is now an Olympic. It's an Olympic sport. I didn't.
Yeah,
is that the first time this year? Amazing.
I believe so. Yeah, and do you know what? It's things like that. I look forward to that. Just watching my kids have fun, because we work so much. It's just watching them do things. And even my baby boy, who's 2.5, he's just started rugby so he goes on a Saturday morning. Yeah, I think we can call it rugby. And it's just doing that. That's the things that I look forward to, and I'd hate for those to disappear.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I coach my son's football soccer team for the Americans, other people listening, and it can be pretty soul destroying when they lose, but when they win, those games they do win, there's nothing better. I'm used to losing. I'm a QPR fan, so I'm used to the team not always coming out on top, unfortunately. Cool. Anyone you think we should speak to next that you come across, or you?
Funny enough, you mentioned that. Isn't the owner? Is it Asheville? Daniel from Asheville's? I think he's their biggest sponsor in the QPR, is he?
Yes,
I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
So he would be a good shout, I'd say. And also Matthew Thomas on Instagram, very, very big into positive mental health as well.
Yeah,
and another Sparky. Genuinely great guy. And even when I was suffering and I wasn't really making it that public, he personally sent me his mobile number just to talk, and we've spoke a few times. And again, those things that they do mean a lot. So definitely a good shout on there.
Yeah, this has been a really, really good conversation. I think I would leave, one parting thought. I think what you've just shared there, and I've heard it from other people, is just this idea of actually people you may never have come across that you've met via social media that you then speak to can build a really powerful support network for trades companies.
100%.
Which I think it's quite strange. Spotting those signs, right, is really, really key.
It is, and it's quite strange because these people, I call it like it's like a social media family, and the people who are actually creating content, you know, and put stuff out on Instagram and all the rest of it, everyone that I've met and had dealings with have been fantastic, and I would, that's one thing, if you take anything away from if you do get into doing social media stuff, that is the key, that everyone is just so helpful. And when I first started, like I was very open about it, and I said, this is what I'm doing, I'm really struggling because of this, that, and the other, and everyone was fantastic, you know. And I think that's something that was shocked me, because I wasn't expecting that. I was definitely not expecting that. I thought there was going to be massive egos, and it's all about, you know, themselves and stepping on each other to get higher, and it doesn't really seem that way with me.
That's definitely, no, all the conversation I've had it's definitely not the case. There's a definite intent behind it to get people more excited about a career in the trades, but also this support network around mental health, which I think is a big, has been identified as a big issue, is a big issue. And I think it's great to hear that there is that support network. So if anyone's listening and, you know, and you're struggling, even the small stuff, or you're running your own business and the stress that goes with that, I think it's really worth reaching out to everyone, because people are very open to talk, which is
and
really cool.
Even if you think it's trivial, that's the thing, isn't it? Even if you think it's trivial, it's not. It really isn't. You know, once you put it vocally out there, it does make a difference. Definitely does make a difference.
Cool. Well, Mike, I really appreciate you spending the time. Thanks again. It's been a great conversation.
No worries. Really enjoyed it.
And
thanks
look forward to. You're welcome. It's our pleasure to have you on board. And look forward to speaking to you again in the future. So for everyone else, thanks for listening. And as always, rate, comment, review. Let us know your thoughts. It's greatly appreciated. Until next time. Cheers.
And that brings us to the end of this episode. Behind the Tools is brought to you by Tradify, job management software for your trade business. If you enjoyed the podcast, let us know by leaving a review, and be sure to tell your mates about it. Email behindthetools@tradifyhq.com if you or someone you know would be keen to join the show as a guest.